One of the things that you'll notice on everybody's top 10 must-have mods for the CRF450L, and honestly for a lot of other bikes, is a new ECU. So we're going to talk about why do you need a new ECU for the Honda. I mean, it's a brand new modern bike. Why do you need to spend another $800 on it to get it to run the way you might want it to? And in this video, we're going to talk about specifically the Vortex. Now, I'm going to mention some other ECUs that you can get for your CRF450L, but this video is specifically about the Vortex. And then I'll do another one on the Get ECU, the Athena Get. Question one, why do I need to spend another, whatever, $700, $800, $900 on my $11,000 dirt bike that I just bought? Understand that when engineers build something, specifically, let's talk about Honda engineers, they are going to make it as perfect as they can. They're going to make it last forever. They're going to give you as much horsepower, as much torque, as much reliability as they can possibly engineer into their product. And that's what they go for. And then they make this perfect motorcycle. And they're like, hey, let's sell this. This is an amazing product. This is an amazing motorcycle. And everybody gets on board. And then the last people to get on board are the lawyers. And they go, no, 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 no. Don't forget emissions. And the engineers are like, hate lawyers. So the lawyers are going to step in. They're going to look at that perfect product. And they're going to say, well, in the United States, you have to meet this level of emissions. In Europe, it's this level. In other countries, every country has their own idea of what is acceptable, basically toxic smoke coming out of the back end of your bike. What is acceptable and what isn't? And the lawyers go in and then they hand the engineers a set of specs that they have to meet. So they take their perfect product, they detune it and retune it until it'll pass those emissions, and then they can sell the product. Every manufacturer does this. It's not a Honda thing, it's a KTM thing, it's a Kawasaki thing, it's a BMW thing. Everybody does this. You are buying the perfect bike for the country you're in that is legal to ride right off the showroom floor. If, however, you want to get back to that perfect bike, you want to take your, whatever, 36 horsepower and you want the 46 horsepower you know it's capable of, or even the 56 horsepower you know it's capable of, or you want the torque because you like riding slow technical, or maybe you want even better gas mileage because you're going to be doing long trips on your bike. All that has been engineered out by the lawyers. If you want to get that back, then you need to get a new ECU. You can bitch, you can whine, you can do whatever. I don't care. It doesn't matter. Go ahead and do your thing. Get it over. Get it out. Because that's just a fact of modern engines and modern emissions laws. Having said all of that, we are motorcycle enthusiasts. We don't do the math. We're going to spend the money to get the bike that we actually wanted in the first place. It is sealed so that Honda is, once they hand you the product, anything you do to it, they can say, we tried to keep them from doing that. They did it, now it's on them. It's totally a liability thing. Again, it's a lawyer thing. If you want your Honda to run the way that the original engineers meant for it to run, you need to get an ECU. If you don't care about that, then you don't need an ECU and you can stop watching this video right now. Go on to the tires because you definitely want new tires. The ECU, the engine control unit, controls everything about your motor. It determines your fuel injection, how much fuel by your throttle position is it going to inject. It changes your spark plug timing, you know, plus or minus, etc. It changes your spark plug voltage. It changes all of that stuff, and those parameters are laid out in maps so that at this RPM, at this throttle position, I want to have this much fuel flowing with this much spark timing, etc., etc. Does that make sense? So it's the program that runs everything according to this and how fast this is spinning. So here the Vortex is installed in place of the Honda ECU, which I believe I have another video on the insulation and what to do with that monster. But just in case you're wondering, you can change the individual percentages of on for your fuel injectors, low, mid, and high. And then your map is right here. It says X10. So I don't know if you can see that, but this is not just a slot. There's actually an arrow on the end of it. And it'll come to you with low, mid, and high at 5, 5, and 5. Keeping in mind that whoever set up the mapping in this set it up on a dyno or in real world circumstances, and most of them are racers who've worked on the mapping. I think it's pretty hard for you to do any better than what they've already done. It's not impossible, but it is hard. Having said that, they are not expecting you to actually race this. So if you are flat out all the time, full throttle, feel free to bump the high up, you know, from 5 to 6. I think it's a 2.5% increase for each click. And the same thing goes with the low. If you're having issues with it flaming out, you can try to give it a little bit more gas, but again, it's not necessarily a gas problem. It's a timing problem and a rotational mass problem. And then obviously the map, you're going to tune to whichever map you have decided works best for you. So I'm going to set my map to 4. And that is best torque, sand, heavy load. Because I'm planning my trip on being a lot of hauling a bunch of heavy stuff. And on my switch, it always defaults to map 1. No matter, it doesn't matter what you set this at. This is what it's running at when it says X10 on the switch. When you switch it to map 1, it's map 1 on here. So it's either map 1 or whatever else you have it set to, okay? That's pretty much there all is to setting this, other than know that you're probably going to have to pull your tank every time you want to switch a map. I can kind of get a screwdriver up underneath and kind of fiddle with this, but my tank's a little different than yours. So you probably have to pull your tank to set this. So remember to set it before you get your tank all buttoned up, okay? All right, the Vortex also comes with a traction control mode. And basically what you're doing is you're comparing throttle position, how fast you want to go, to wheel spin, how fast are you actually going, to speed, etc. Right, so if your RPMs go up but your speed doesn't, and your throttle's the same, you've lost traction. So to turn traction on, all you have to do is start the bike up. While it's running, tap the starter again and you'll see the light, the engine light will come on. So I'm going to start it up, start the bike, and then I'm going to tap the starter, and now it's in traction control mode. Alright, and then to turn it off, all you're going to do is tap the starter again, and the light goes out. And it's that easy. Is the Vortex worth it? Well, you get 9 more horsepower, so right there, that's an automatic yes. That's not even a question. You get traction control, which works okay. It's not bad, it's not great either. It's not the most sensitive thing. I hear the Getz is better, but we're going to try that out. Just real quick in conclusion, do you need a new ECU? If you're commuting and you're pretty happy with the way your bike is, I wouldn't change anything. Just go ahead and ride it. If you're planning on doing anything a little more hardcore, or you're just the type of person like me who can't not keep adding Farkles to his bike, then 9 horsepower alone is worth the money. It's just worth it right there. So you get 9 more horsepower, you get traction control, you get an ECU that you can tune a little bit if you want. If you're a good enough rider that you can change maps and truly feel a difference, then it's totally worth it. Does it get rid of the Flameout? That's a little bit of a toss-up. Again, I did mine and it did not flame out for a while, and then it started to again. and then it stopped again. And I'm going to blame that on the gas. I run 91 in mine, just because that's what the Vortex asks you to run, 91, so it can change your spark timing and really get a little bit more compression out of everything. I've got a feeling if you try to cheat that, because, you know, I don't know when you're watching this, but right now gas is, I don't know, average of $5 a gallon, which, you know, here is expensive. To all you Europeans, we're still like $2 a gallon cheaper than you, so sorry about that. In my opinion, do you need a new ECU for your CRF450L or RL? And I'm going to say yes, you do. If you want to get all the performance out of the bike that you possibly can, and if you want to add a few extra gizmos. And then it comes preloaded with, I'm going to call it 9 maps, even though there are 10 positions. Map 0 should be the stock map. Check your version of the Vortex. The new ones should come like I showed you, with that map 5 being an improved stock map, and then everything else is divided up into FMF and Yash. Now if you're not running either of those pipes, nobody cares. I believe the FMF is a little freer running, has a little bit less back pressure to it. Don't even worry about it. Just as a quick comparison, the Get ECU, you can get different programs for that, but they don't specify it to an exhaust. It's just how the bike runs with a more open exhaust on it. The price for all the different ECUs is probably about the same. At the time of this video, the Vortex is somewhere between $700 and $800. If you add the switch to it, that adds another, whatever, $80. I'm not really sure. Everybody's prices are a little different. And that's right around where all the ECUs seem to be falling until somebody comes out with a cheaper option. And these things are expensive. They just are. Understand that this little computer here, unlike your cell phone or even your laptop, right, has to survive being inside an engine, bounced around, vibrated to death, all temperature swings, wet, dry, etc., etc. So it's a pretty solid little unit inside there. So you're definitely paying for that. Plus it's all proprietary to whoever's manufacturing them, or proprietary to the factory in China that's actually building these things for you. You can also have these reprogrammed if you can find a dealer that does that, or you can have a dealer program it to whatever system you're putting on the bike, especially for getting it cammed. And that's what this extra little pigtail here is for. So it can be like completely programmed. Again, all you're changing on this is your fuel trim levels basically, but this also controls your ignition curve, your ignition timing, spark plug voltage. It controls everything. All of that can be reprogrammed. Well, it can be reprogrammed by you if you go out and spend $800 on the program to reprogram Vortex. Through that program, you can control when your fan comes on, at what temperature. I believe the Vortex sets it higher, and I want to say 200 degrees, but I could be wrong on that. My fan, since putting this thing on, has not kicked in once. It's also never overheated, right? So it's never actually gone over 200 degrees. And a bike running optimal should be, what, 180, 185 anyway, so it's not that much of a difference. Because this controls and monitors RPM, it can also change your red line. I believe the stock red line is like 10.2, and with the Vortex it's 10.7. One of the things that we found out that it will not necessarily do is it will not necessarily cure your off-idle blip flameout or your second to third gear flameout. Again, I have had my bike stall, and I've had friends, CRF450Ls, stall while they had a Vortex installed. Some people, it'll get better. It definitely makes the throttle softer, so that snappiness will sort of go away, but it is not the cure-all. It's not the end-all be-all. But it can eliminate the flame out. There is a possibility it will. So, Yes. I mean, to me, unequivocally, the first thing you're going to buy is you're going to buy an exhaust and the Vortex or an ECU at the same time and put them in. It's the two biggest things that will improve this bike. The exhaust just because it's going to end up being like 7 pounds lighter than the one you have. All right, so that's the end of my little Vortex spiel. If I forgot to answer any questions you might still be having, down in the comments, I try to get to all the comments if I can. I'll probably stop that once I hit 1 million subscribers, which will never happen. Yeah, so let me know if you have any questions. And the next video is going to be kind of care of, or not sponsored by, but my friend Mike Spurgeon, Taco Mike at Takomoto, sent me the new Get ECU and a bunch of other stuff with it, a switch, and I think it does Wi-Fi and all that. So I am going to swap out the Vortex for the Get. I'm going to put this thing through its paces, and at the end of the Get video, I will let you know which I like better. If I like one better than the other, I may not. They might be both the same. I don't know yet. But I'll let you know whether the Get or the Vortex is, in my opinion, better, yellow or green. I don't know. It doesn't matter to me one way or the other, as long as the bike runs better. But yeah, so that's it for this video, and thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I really do. Thank you. Okay. Green or yellow? Man, look at that thing. Look at that thing. That's pretty bright green.